I'm JD and welcome to my channel. If you want to contact me at jdwatchservice@gmail.com, and don't forget to subscribe and click that little bell button and you'll get notified when I have a new video. So today, what are we going to do? I wanted to do a video on regulating a watch. So I'm going to use a watch as opposed to a pocket watch because I want to deal with beat error. And I'm going to use a Wichita 1900 timer that I received or got recently just to test it. So we'll look at beat error, we'll look at amplitude, and other things. So I hope you enjoy this. And we're going to use this old watch that I have here that I bought from China a long time ago. It's a beast. It's huge compared to my Hamilton that I've got. If you look at the Hamilton and you look at this, this watch is a beast. So it wasn't very expensive. These buttons here are fake. They don't do anything, and it winds and sets without a problem. Look at this. It winds without a problem. It's skeletonized, which I liked at the time, and you can actually see as you wind it, you can actually see the mainspring tightening up, which is kind of cool. You can actually see the if you look really close, you can see the balance through the middle there on the left hand side and the second hand going around. I colored the hands just for fun. I bought some model stuff in there, and so I don't know what the movement, the clone of this movement is. So this is a clone of something, but it says it's stainless steel and diver's watch, but really it's just a cheap watch. TM340. It's a TM340. These are not solid links. This is not a solid end piece here. And the clasp is kind of crappy. It's okay. It's a pressed clasp. It's not a milled clasp. So I think I should be able to just push this out right here and get on with the work and remove the back so we can discuss regulating watches. There you go. There you go. And I hope you enjoyed my guitar playing that I did just this morning. So I've got two videos on there. One was a poor rendition of Mood for a Day by Yes. I can play that a lot better, but I was tired and I was like, I can't remember how to play this. And then I played ZZ Top Lagrange, which I did a better job at, but still, I can also play that better when I'm standing up and I'm in the mood. But hope you enjoyed that, just as a little change. And let's get on with this video. Okay, here we are with a close-up of a watch movement. This is a Chinese watch. As you saw before, it's a winner watch, and this is likely a clone movement. And it's an automatic self-winding watch. There's the rotor for it, and just move that out of the way, and you can see it's kind of an ankle block, kind of top jewel setting on this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to test this watch, and then we're going to change the beat error on it, and then we're going to also see what that does to the overall numbers of this watch, and we're going to see if we can regulate it. So let me get this thing set up first, and well, I'll explain what I mean by beat error, and I'll explain what I mean by amplitude and other things first. Again, in the words of David Letterman, oh me, oh my, oh me, oh my. So let me just, can I draw a circle using this? Let me see if I can draw a circle using this little case back that I have. Makes a much nicer circle than I had before. I'm not going to bother making like a pocket watch balance here because they would have a break in it. And then this balance then has a center here. There's a collet in the center. I'll draw my collet like this, and the collet would be like this, and then it would go like that. It's like a donut, except it's got an opening. That's where you stick your screwdriver in. And right in here is where you have the center pivot here of this. And then the spring itself goes out from the collet and goes in crazy circles like that. The spring goes out like that, like this. I'm only going to go a few times, okay? And then there's an overcoil that kind of cuts in under like this. And then it attaches. Oh my God, this is a confusing diagram. Confusing diagram. That's the balance cock there, and attaches to a stud right there. So because this is so damn confusing, I'm going to draw another one. No good. Let's try this again. Okay, Forget the circle thing, it takes too long. I can't draw a perfect circle, so I'm not Leonardo da Vinci. So there's this, and I'll just draw the balance cock like this. And of course it's not centered. Man, shittydrawings.com. Let me draw the balance cock first. There's the balance cock like that. There's a stud like this. And then this stud would hold the hairspring that would go around like this lightly. And then it would cut over because it's, there we go, it goes to the outside like that. And then it goes in like this. And then it continues. And I'll just do this, dash, 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 dash. It continues inward like this until it hits the collet in the center. There, so I'll just draw a circle for the collet in the center. And then the balance would be like this, and like this, like that. And let's just say that's a big thick watch balance. I'm like, if you lived in Canada when you were younger, you watched Mr. Dress Up and he could actually draw stuff really well. Not me, folks, not me. So there you go, that's the balance. And of course I have it off at an angle, which is no darn good for the explanation. So when this balance rotates, let's say there's a roller table underneath here, as you know, right? It's a big fat roller table. I'm going to just draw the roller table exaggerated as well, okay? There's the roller table, right? And it's underneath all this stuff. So crappy drawing. An impulse jewel right here. And I'll just draw it square, but it's not square. It's a half moon. There's the impulse jewel. And there's the palette fork. Palette fork opening, the mouth of the palette fork like that, and then the palette fork goes over here. We got a couple of banking pins here. I'm exaggerating again. And then the fork goes out like this, and it's got the jewels over here and over there, right? So there you go, something like that. So when this palette fork pushes that impulse jewel in this direction, the watch moves in this direction, and this little impulse jewel moves in that direction as well. So it swings all the way over here until this impulse jewel gets close to this, to the, basically close to the end of this palette fork. So if you hit this, you're over banking, right? So if it goes bam and hits that, you're over banking. So if it goes in one way, so the actual amplitude of a watch, if you look at the swing of the watch, and I watched a watch, say, with the impulse jewel in the center, right, as far as it can go this way, right, in one swing, one complete swing, that's the amplitude, right? So if you push the other way, because your jewel's all the way over here, and then you push the other way, it's going to go through and then through and back again, right? So that's a full swing. So if you can get a full swing of, say, 300 degrees in the swing, then the amplitude's only 150 degrees. It's half of that. So when you look at the watch timer and you see amplitude, if you multiply the amplitude by 2, that's the full swing of the watch. So that's the difference between the full swing and the actual amplitude of the watch. Now the beat error is that I'm expecting this thing, say I got an amplitude of 180 degrees, so it's going to swing from here, right, all the way back to this to this 180 degrees around, and it's swinging. Let me see. Yeah, 180 degrees swings here, right, like that. So the impulse jewel would be over here. It's flat like that, and then around like that. These are shitty drawings, so I hope you're enjoying this. So that's 180 degrees, 180 degrees, right? So this 180 degrees would be an amplitude of 180 degrees. Then it swings, and this is with the impulse jewel starting in the center, just as though it's just starting. So this thing may have already swung through and caught the palette fork, and then the palette fork would have driven it around the other way. But then it comes, say it's only got 180 degree amplitude, then it comes back, right? It ends up the other side, and it ends up stopping, not here, it stops over here, right? So it doesn't quite get all the way, so it stops at 170 degrees, right? What you now have is a beat error, because if the beat error was 0, right, that means it's going just as far one way as it is the other way. So that's the beat error on a watch. So it's having the perfect amplitude in both directions, right, in both swings, counterclockwise and clockwise, and that's the beat error. So in a watch, you want that to happen. In a pocket watch, you actually have to take the collet for the hairspring and rotate it either left or right, And when the hairspring is in resting position and there's no power on this watch at all, this jewel should be sitting almost perfectly in the center of the two banking pins. So you can see that by looking at the arm of the pallet fork. If the arm of the pallet fork is in the center, then you're likely going to have 0 to a very low beat error. Now, in actuality, or in actually speaking, the beat error, to be perfect both ways, this will be either, I think it's to the compression side just a bit more, right, because of the difference in the swing, the decompression and compression of the hairspring. So, but that's so anal retentive, you don't have to worry about that. You want to look down if you're doing a pocket watch job, and you want to make sure that the pallet fork, the arm of the pallet fork, is between the banking pins with the balance at rest, and you've got a perfect beat error. Alrighty then, so this watch here would be out of beat. Why would this be out of beat? Because item C here, there's less gap here than there is here, right? This is not perfectly in the center, so you're going to have a slight beat error that way, right? So, and to move this, this pallet fork virtually this way, and really you're just moving the impulse jewel this way, you're effectively moving the collet the other way. So you'll figure out how to do that if you ever correct that, right? So you want to move that, you want to correct that beat error first, right? By making sure that this in resting position is dead center between the banking pins. Then you're going to try to figure out, okay, can I make this watch speed up? So amplitude, you can have a good amplitude, but the watch is running either slow or fast, but you want the watch to run accurately. So what you have here, if you look down here, you've got, these are the regulator pins. So this is a hairspring that's studded here. This is a much better drawing, by the way, than the one I drew. Mine was really shitty. But this is a studded hairspring here, right? And this is nice because you've got a little bit of extra hairspring in case your regulator at rest here is not in the center when the thing is working perfectly. If it's hard right or hard left, like for fast, avancé, and whatever French is for slow down, then you have to adjust this hairspring in the collet and give it, if this thing is basically running fast, right, that means you're trying to slow it down, but you've run out of hairspring to slow this thing down. The regulator pins are probably backed right up against the back. This jobby doohickey is right up over as slow as it can go, and then you say, what the heck am I going to do? Well, if you re-pin the hairspring onto this stud here, then it gives you more real estate, more hairspring, and more hairspring here means you can actually ride these regulator pins along this hairspring and make the virtual length of this hairspring longer when it's this way, right? So you're not up against the back here, so you can just slide that this way more, right? And equally, if you're trying to speed the watch up and there's no way of doing it because the damn thing's running too slow, and you've got this all the way over here, you can also loosen this up and then move your basically there's a pin usually in these studs. You can take out this little brass pin, and you can move the hairspring in until you're set it so your regulator arm is red dead center here between these two, slow and fast. This would be slow, this is fast. Avancé is French for fast. I don't know why they wouldn't just put an F there, but anyway. So, and retardé or something is slow. Anyway, I should Google that because my French is, for a guy that's half French, my French is really shitty. So anyway, so you would set this again so that if the watch is perfectly in beat and you have the perfect timing on the watch, it's basically plus or minus 0 seconds per day, then this hairspring, this regulator arm, is where it's going to be when this is dead center. And so you can play with the hairspring to make sure that's happening. That way, when you want to fine tune your watch, you don't run out of angle here, or you don't run out of distance here when you're trying to make it go faster or make it go slower. And I've seen a lot of pocket watches come in and this thing is drilled way over to the edge to try to slow this thing down, and the regulator arm with the pins is stuck right against the where it's pinned, right? So now in watches, if I just use this diagram again, in watches, In a pocket watch, to correct the beat error, you're actually taking the stud here for the hairspring and you're rotating it. So you're sticking your screwdriver in and you're rotating this left or right to make sure this arm is in the center. But in watches, they actually allow you to move this arm here, right, which is virtually moving the stud for the hairspring. So your collet, basically, for the hairspring, I should say. So your hairspring collet is rotating if you rotate this arm. So these are movable in watches. So we're going to have a look at that in this old Chinese movement that I have to see if I can explain how that's done. All right, this doesn't get more action-packed than this, does it? So I've got my Wishy, which is a copy, I think, a Chinese copy of the Witichi 1900. It's a pretty good checker of amplitude and rate and everything else. So this watch, I'm going to put a good watch on here in a second, but this says I've got a rate of plus 217 seconds per day. I've got an amplitude of 169, as I was describing to you before, so it goes 169 degrees around one way, and then it comes back and goes 169 degrees around the other way. The beat error is 0.8 milliseconds, which is not too bad, and that's the time between those beats, and incorrect timing between the clockwise and the counterclockwise swing. And this is a lift angle, which is, I'm not going to describe this today, but usually leave this at 52. Some watches have a lift angle of 45 to 54, I think is what you're looking at. And then I've got a gain thing here, but this watch here says it's running at 21,600 beats per hour, right? So that's the beat of this particular movement. And again, I don't know what the brand of this movement is. But if you look at the signal here, man, this is a shit. So you can't describe anything with respect to beat error or anything until you replace that movement. And let me just put a different movement in here. And I think this is a see-through back on this, which is nice. So this is my Hamilton khaki pilot day-date movement here. And so if I set this up again, and you can see the screen nicely, see if I can move this so it's square. I love square. So we'll do that. It's going to go to auto detect beat rate, and the nice thing here is that I can talk and it still works. So because there's a piezo microphone in there. So now you look at this, and my rate is 9 seconds per day. My amplitude is 287, which is not too bad, and I've been wearing this for a couple days. My beat error is 0.8 milliseconds. Not great for a high-end watch, but not too bad, I guess. And it's a 21,600. Now with this particular watch, they've beated this down to 21,600 because this is a $1,200 watch in order for it to get 80 hours of time. So I could take this off, wait 80 hours. I can wait 79 hours and the watch will still be running. So, and as you can see, the trace lines here would tell me that this it's running a bit fast. So the trace lines would tell me that on one side it's releasing perfectly from the jewel, right, from the pallet fork jewel. On the other side, there's a few issues. So this issue could be some leftover oil on the face of that other stone on the pallet fork. It could be anything, but it should be a little more smoother there, but it's not too bad, right? So, and this watch isn't running that badly. So, but I'm not going to use this watch to regulate it. I'm going to use this old Chinese movement, and we're going to regulate that and then have a look at what the resulting amplitude is. And I'll try to do that. I'm going to see if I can do that with a dual camera. And one more note. So if this had a perfect beat error, then this would be a single line. You wouldn't see two lines. So the wider this gap, the more beat error in the watch. So you can see a pretty drastic beat error in a watch that's got like 2 milliseconds and stuff. Pocket watches at 0.8 milliseconds is pretty darn good for a pocket watch. I had another watch I had on the other day that had a 0.1 millisecond beat error, and I had one that had a 0, which is nice. If you get a Rolex, very expensive Rolex, it's likely going to have a 0 beat error because they're going to make sure that's perfectly corrected before they deliver that to the guy who just spent 20 grand on a Rolex. So, and it's settled down into well, it was 10 seconds per day for a second there, but it's 19 seconds per day. Still a little bit fast, so I could take this apart and then fix it, but I got to unscrew this, so I'm not going to do that today. So let's just switch watches. All right, I got this all arranged. This was not easy. So I've got the Timegrapher on the upper right hand side, and I've got the camera pointing at this here. So I'm going to just see if I can explain this to you. So what we have here is we have the this is the beat. This corrects the beat error. So this is a stud here, but in these watches, these are movable. As I showed you before, the bounce cock is here, right? And this arm here is movable, which moves the hairspring, the whole hairspring attached to the stud in either direction, and that will correct the beat error, as I was discussing before. This here little arm, the hairspring goes through this little arm, and if I move this way, it speeds the watch up because it's changing the virtual length of that hairspring. And if I move it the other way, it slows the watch down. So because it's making the hairspring longer. So if you look right now, I've got a beat error of 0.2 and an amplitude of 101 degrees, and I've got a rate of plus 55. So the first thing I want to do is correct the beat error, but I'm going to make this thing go way out of beat first of all. So let's just move this beat error. The trace on here is pretty shitty, as you can see. It's climbing because of its amplitude, but it's not a clean trace with this cheap movement. So, and I'm going to start this off fresh again here. Hang on, let me just start this off fresh. Let it detect the beat, and this is a Wishy 1900 multifunction Timegrapher. So you see it climbing, and it's settled down a bit, but it's at +6, and then it just dips down and goes back up and dips down. And you want that to be a straight line, eh? So 0.2 millisecond beat error. So I'm going to push this beat error arm. I'm going to try to push this beat error arm over with this little piece of pegwood. And here I should get a bigger beat error by doing this. See, now the beat error is now at 0.3. See, now you can see the separation between beats. As I discussed before, there's a separation between beats, and the beat error is now 1. So this is not too good. And what I'm going to do is adjust the rate of the watch now. So it's going fast, so I'm going to slow this baby down a bit. And to do that, I just have to push the regulator pins over a bit. Now, I'm going to use a screwdriver to do this because I can't get in there with my pick, and I've got cameras and everything else in the way. So I'm going to just get in here with a screwdriver and see if I can shift this over just a bit. Could be an impossible feat. Normally the regulation is done over here with an arm, so you wouldn't have to do it this way. But today, not so much. Trying to get my hand in here. I may just use the edge this way and see if I can just push it over this way. Try not to stick your screwdriver into the movement. There, I just grabbed it and moved it over, and that should slow the watch down a bit. So I'm going to just 2.6 beat error is kind of shitty. Eh? Look at that. So that beat error went way over. So now I'm going to start this up again, get the beat detection going, and you'll see the beat should be negative now. There you go, negative 96. So I pushed that way over, as you saw with my screwdriver. And it's just, this is just a shitty movement. That's what this is. So it's going up and down. It's probably some gears in there, some wheels in there that are really not consistently turning. So it could be a joule issue, but it's driving down, which means it's negative. So we're getting a negative 76 seconds per day, averaging that off. Now if I push that over and get that rate close, the beat error is 3.5. So I'm going to push that back a bit again. And I just touched the hairspring a bit because the hairspring can get snagged on that between the regulator pins. So now I'm running at minus 36 here. And my amplitude is 198. That's not too bad in amplitude, but my beat error is way off. So I can't regulate this watch without the beat error being accurate now. So what I did before is I pushed this arm, which is almost like pushing the hairspring, rotating the hairspring itself. I pushed it in this direction, I think. So I'm going to push it in the other direction, which might correct this just a bit. Now let's just see if I get a change in beat error here from doing that. I should probably turn this on and off, but see it's 2.7, so it's improving. And the rate will change too because I'm moving the hairspring along that. It'll actually, when I push the beat error, push the arm the way I pushed it just now, the watch, the regulator arm moves too, I think, on this movement. Or is it independent? Not sure. So I got 1.5 millisecond beat error, so it's not too bad. And now, and I know the movement's kind of shitty because it's zigzagging, which is all kinds of other, it's sawtoothing on me. There, I pushed it just a bit more, try to get close to a good beat error. Good swing on both sides. My amplitude's improving a bit because of that, and my beat error should improve. There we go, we got 0.6 now. And now I can likely get it a little bit closer to 0. I'll push that again. And doing this work with the beat error is trial and error, because you could push it too far and get beat error, but it never tells you. It never tells you whether your beat error is positive or negative. It just gives you the beat error. So you got to go back and forth and do a trial and error on this. So I pushed it again. Now, did I push it too far? I don't know. But if I look at my trace, I still got a separation, which means, see this separation and trace here, which means I pushed it too far in that direction. So now I've got to push it back the other way. Just a bit. There, I pushed it just a tad back the other way and see if I can see if it's improved it at all. I'm going to start this up again. I know it's kind of a testy thing to do, right? It's tricky. Let's see what my beat error is now. That's not too bad. And now I'm at plus 20 seconds, minus 22 seconds per day, so it's still driving down, but my beat error is 0.8 milliseconds. Now, if I push it back this way and it decreases, that means I've corrected it in the right direction. And normally you can do this without a camera on it, so you get a little bit more room inside the movement. It's probably too far there. I pushed it a little bit further, but I can push it back. So let's just look at that beat error. I can see the lines are a bit closer together now. So I'm getting closer to a better beat error. And I know it's a bit sawtooth, which is no good, which means there's other issues. Now it went 1.1, so I'm going to push it back the other way because I think I may have pushed it too far this way. I'm playing the old beat error game here. Now that's really close. I'm looking at the separation here, and that's super close. So that should come up with a nice beat error number here in any second now. 0.8, it might even be better than that. And I've got a negative 81 seconds per day rate, an amplitude of 204. And my beat error is almost bang on. Look at that, 0.2 millisecond beat error. Now I could tell from my trace, because the lines are almost a single line, that my beat error is almost perfect here. I don't know if I can get it any closer than that, so I'm not going to try. Now this is, again, going all over the place, zigzag. It should be a straighter line, but this is an old crappy Chinese movement, and so you're getting all these waves here, and these waves are likely from the escapement maybe not being consistent, or a problem with one of the gears. It's probably the escapement, I suspect. So it's going up to 0.4, but that's not too bad. So now I'm going to go in and see if I can adjust this rate here. It's minus 54. So to make it go faster, I've got to move it in this direction, making the hairspring virtually the length smaller. Alright, I moved it just a bit, as you saw. It's a tricky camera work here. and we're going to have, what's it running now? It's kind of running even, minus 22, and it's going up and down, right? So you can see the trace over here, and it's following this zigzag trace that it had before, right? And I think there's probably a better way of showing this trace. So it averages it out so it's not this. And I can play with that in a second and see if I can change that. But now I've got minus 21. So now it's plus 8. See, it's starting to climb. You can see it climbing a bit here. The overall average is climbing, and it's climbing at plus 8. So it's likely going to keep climbing at plus 8. So I moved it a bit too far, and this is, I can tell you, this is very hard because getting in closer is easier. All right, moved it again, and I can tell just by looking at it again whether this is climbing or not. But I'm gonna, where is it? There it is there. So it's going, it's kind of going down a bit here now again, right? So I did push it over again too far. So it's playing, I'm playing a bit of ping pong here with the regulator pins, and it's not paying off. So I'm just gonna push this back. There. And I'll look at the trace here, over here. Where is it? Where is that trace? There it is down there. And so it's minus 39, and it's oscillating here. So it's kind of a shitty watch to show a good trace on. But it's what I got in the, I've got what I got in it now. So I may do my Hamilton in a second, because it'd be much better to show the trace on the Hamilton. So there we go. So you start the trace again here. On the shitty Chinese watch. The shitty Chinese watch. And I can see how those lines are so close together. That means my beat error is running really well. So I wouldn't play with a 0.3 beat error. That's good enough. 200 degree amplitude is pretty good. And I'm riding around plus or minus 10 seconds per day. Because it's going down, then it's going up, then it's going down, then it's going up. So it's averaging down right now. But again, it's the watch. But the point is, again, for this video, I've got two things here. I've got this arm here on a watch that I can change the beat error and get that down to 0 first. And then this arm will ride along the hairspring. And if I push it further away from this stud here, the watch is gonna run faster. If I push it closer to the stud, the watch is gonna run slower. So this is a crappy watch, though. I hope you can appreciate that. And this is not a watch about problems with, or a video about problems with watches. But if I was looking at this video and I had this watch and I needed to fix it or something, I'd say, okay, let's clean this watch first because it's oscillating up and down and up and down. So when it does that, it's probably the escapement having a problem, or maybe it's a wheel somewhere in this watch that's not setting right. So it's slowing down at some point and then speeding up at another point. So that's it. So this is a good, the Wichichi 1900. It does a great job. Let me see if I can turn this off a second. There's a menu system in here that I'll show you because you're probably curious about this. So there's my menu system. So I can look at my beat rate, set it to auto. I can look at my lift angle at 52. All you do is take your watch movement, go into Google lift angle for Seiko, whatever watch movement. It'll tell you what to set this lift angle at. It's defaulted at 52. The period is just its frequency that it's sampling the sounds, so 12-second samples. And then I've got this, because it's the 1900, I get a color graph, which is nice. And the graph type A, I'm not sure what the graph type B looks like. I should try that out. But then I've got English language, brightness, auto off, etc., etc. So if I go to graph type B, this is auto select. If I go down to graph type, do I get a different selection here? Graph type B or graph type A? So let's have a look at what graph type B looks like. If I press menu again, nothing's going to happen. So let's see if I get a different graph here. Yeah, this is a single graph. It's not showing the beats. So this is an averaging graph. I think this is just, as you can see, it's a different type of graph, just showing it going up and down. So it's not showing me the separation between beats. And I kind of like the graph that shows me the separation between beats, which is really nice. So, but if I put my Hamilton watch in here again, let's turn this off. And let me grab this old Chinese movement out of here. And it cost me 20 bucks this movement. And you can see it's got $20 worth of regulating going on here. So, and again, this device here can regulate in 5 different positions, but I'm just using it to as a just to show you how this works. So there we go there. So I turn this on again, and you'll see a much better graph here. And here I'm running 18 seconds per day. It's just checking one beat. I got a 0.5 millisecond beat error. I'd like that to be a lot better for a watch of this caliber. And this is running, let me see. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I could change the beat error on this and regulate this watch, but we're not going to do that today because I don't want to go inside this watch today. But there's a better graph here, so let me just select the graph, the menu, and go down to the graph type again, and set that to graph A, start again, and now you'll see the beat error. You'll see the separation of signals. I turned off the speaker. I'll turn that on again, but see this separation here? That's the beat error. So I'd want this to be one solid line on this watch. I'm a little bit disappointed that a watch of this caliber and cost, that the beat error would be so far off in this. But if I rotate this, let's rotate it just a bit. I'll put an angle on it like that, and I'll move this, you see, left, right, up, down. There we go. So there it is at an angle, and I still have a crappy beat error. So 0.8 millisecond beat error. 8 seconds per day is not too bad, but the beat error is not good on this watch. So this could work. I could regulate this watch, but again, I don't want to unscrew the back on it and stuff. So that's it. That's a little example of how you adjust the beat error on a watch. Use a toothpick when you're doing it, and you'll do fine. Well, that's the video for today. I hope this was a little bit enjoyable anyway. So I have this, that Chinese movement obviously was not very good. And that's why the watch cost 20 bucks. It was stamped out probably because you could see the waves in the Timegrapher going up and down, which means the train of wheels is not very good. So the wheels, gears, pinions, all that stuff is really not meshing properly. That's why you're getting all of that. But you saw from my video how you change the beat error on a watch, and then how you change the how you regulate the watch and change the accuracy of the watch, the rate of the watch, as you saw in the video. So I still got the Timegrapher running on this little baby, and you also saw where that amplitude can be. Basically, the amplitude will probably increase a bit if you slow the watch down because you get more hairspring to work with, which means it'll swing more. So. And anyway, the Timegrapher, multifunction Timegrapher 1900 is a great tool to use because you can just quickly regulate the watch. And as I said, you want to regulate the watch where the crown is down, because your hand's sort of falling to the ground, or where your crown is sideways like this. So you take your regulation microphone and you make sure your crown is pointing left or right like that. I think left. Left or right, left if you're facing it. And then when you're on the desk, if you're working, then it's face up. So those 3 positions are critical for regulating a watch. And all the other positions are great. If you've got a chronometer that's highly accurate chronometer, then go ahead and regulate the hell out of it. So that's my video for today. Hope you enjoy it. I showed you all of the crap along with the good stuff as I usually do. So, and keep watching my videos, and I love comments, so go ahead and comment away.